Hey, real quick before we start this video, tonight, as of this video dropping, I'm doing a live stream with some testing, but also I'm going to have a box tournament as well. It's going to be online webcam. There's a couple spots open as of this video being recorded, so you guys can check it out if you want to. Links in the description, and I hope to see you guys there. Hey everyone, Eggman here with another video, and today we have a top 16 breakdown for the Pro PlayGames One Piece Regionals that happened this past weekend. It was a 512 player event, and it has this top 16 that we see here today. And real quick before we get started, first, if you guys are new to the channel, please make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. We've been trying really hard to do a lot of good One Piece content in the last couple weeks. And right now, our subscription rate is about 33% of the people who watch my videos are subscribed. I've been trying to jump that to like 40 or 50%, so that would be greatly appreciated. And also, if you guys don't know about my website, Eggman Events, I do a lot of event coverage and have a lot of deck list on here too. So we have all of the English OP04 events and OP03 and just pretty much every event that's going on for the English event for this format, at least the larger one. So really good resource for that as well, and I hope you guys check it out too. So link to that in the description, but let's get started with this video. So again, it was 512 players, 9 rounds of Swiss, and it was hosted by Pro PlayGames. There was not a stream for this event, so unfortunately there wasn't any like official match coverage for this one. And going into the top 16, there were 8 whole Newgates, which is quite a bit. And honestly, if we look back at here too, like this is like the second time this format where Newgate takes half the spots, with the PlayTCG North American Online Regionals the weekend before being another one. So a little bit important there. But then also 2 Charlotte Katakuris, 2 Laws, 1 Crocodile, 1 Zoro, 1 Queen, as well as 1 Ace as well. And there's also just kind of a weird little note. Nicholas also got 16th with exactly the same tiebreakers, and I did want to include them into this top 16 as well, especially since they were playing Rebecca for it. So a bit of a weird situation, kind of a rare situation too, but again, I did want to include them into this top 16 breakdown because, again, like they did get the same exact records. And how BCP works, Luis was just alphabetically first, which meant that they got 16th actually. So kind of stinks that happens, but that's how it is. And I did want to again mention that and put them in the video. So we're going to go over the top placing list for each one of these leaders, starting off with their first place list here. So we're going to go over to our Newgate. So this is Jacob Carr's first place version of the list, and this is definitely the Whitebeard version of it. We do see the Ezo, and we also have like just a lot of the Whitebeard Pirates cards. So our our vanilla, a lot of the Newgates play the 4/6 vanillas, at least one of them. And Atmos is the one for this one, which is a Whitebeard. We have the Marcos, we have our Ace, we have Thatch, as well as our 9-drop Newgate, which again is still a decision point depending on who you ask. We have our Fossas, which are blockers as well, which have the 1K counter, but also can be found with the Ezo too. And then we have a couple more events than we normally see. We see 2 copies of Table Manor Kit Course, which I think people are still bouncing between 0 to 2 copies of this right now in their own builds. We have our General Radical Beam Guard Point, 2 copies of the Red Hawk, and also 2 copies of Crossfire as well. Being able to use this card to get like the -4 and stuff, like especially like Rebecca playing cards with Luffy, and there's a kind of like more character cards that can attack more than once right now too, which I think is kind of important. You can also do kind of like the cheese combo. If you leave 4 Dawn open, you can Crossfire Gum Gum Red Hawk to get the removal of something, as long as they had a power of 8K or less when they are attacking. So that's kind of a weird removal option, but that can work there if you need it to. And then also the fact that this is a Whitebeard's Pirate is really important too. So the fact that this can be found from Ezo. The only negative thing about this is that it doesn't let you use it for leaders as well, but you can also use this offensively since it is a main as well. So if you have this give something -4K and then you play a Marco afterwards, you get rid of something with a 7K or sorry, 8K or less power, which is a good amount of the cards on the board right now too. So that's kind of all I have to talk about this one. Congratulations to Jacob for their finish there, and for getting Newgate another W. And I think this is actually Newgate's first W, at least in the English version of OP04. So there we go there. Next up, we have Sean with Charlotte Katakuri, and this has been kind of like, this is like a pretty standard list, and this is a lot of like, this almost looks like an OP03 list too, because I think more and more people are going back to Charlotte Cracker. This wasn't used in the beginning of the format. I think it was the first trigger card, unless you're playing Smoothie, that a lot of people took out of their builds, but it's been coming back a little bit more and more. It's never like truly the worst card in your deck because it is a 1K counter, and the fact that you can trigger it off your life is very good. It does have like a little bit of a comeback mechanic. Some decks really will always be like, against Newgate, this card is kind of worthless, unfortunately, so that is something to kind of consider for it there. But other than that, like the fact that it's another card you can play off your life, I think is is very strong, and I think the card is it's okay at like 2 or 3 copies. I don't think it's worth being at 4 right now, but I do like Sanji more so in the slot as well. But if you have extra room, I think it's not a terrible choice. Other than that, we do have our Randolphs, our Parasparrows, our Charlotte Linlins, which we're playing the 7 drops and no copies of Yamato, 3 Katakuris, and 4 Linlins, and also 4 Thunderbolts, which is, I guess, the maximum that you can run there too. So that is the list there, and congratulations to Sean for their finish there. Next up, we have Star Deck Croc. So this is Phuoc's list of this one here. So I do think that it's a very standard kind of list that we're seeing here, in the fact that we are seeing like the Sentomaru package with the Crocodile, meaning that we don't necessarily need the card draw. And I made kind of like, there was a video a couple of days ago I made doing a comparison between Dofi and Crocodile in this meta, since they were both kind of like blue leaders that kind of want the same kind of end game in a lot of ways. But Crocodile being able to get all these free, draws and everything, as long as you're able to find the Sentomaru and get the additional advantage from it, I think is very strong. Other than that, it's kind of the standard package that we've been seeing. So Missile Sunday is fantastic. This card is kind of the reason to play Blue Croc, in my opinion, because it lets you, renew your Red Rock, your Thousand Worlds, and also your Dragon Twisters as well. There are a lot of spots like if I'm on like the defense and I need to survive the next turn, being able to defend with the, block with the Missile Sunday, leave 2 open for the Dragon Twister, and then use that for a 4K counter is really, really strong, like really strong as well. So I think that does help you. And this being able to get like slow down stuff like Trafalgar Law, get rid of 1-drop blockers, and even like interact with Zoro, I think is very strong too. So I like all of that. We have we don't have a lot of room on the top end, especially since we are playing the Pacifista engine, but we do have like Soga King, which has been very strong too. 4 Mihawks, and then 2 copies of Kaido, which is about as much as I see for the list too. And we don't have as much of like these non-counter cards, so I think that not running Gum Gum Rain makes sense, especially since Soga King can help you get the cycle and get the tempo back to you if you need to also. So that's kind of the list there. Congratulations for their finish there. Next up, we have Zoro. So this is Lester's build with this one. There's pretty much 2 ways to play Zoro right now, of the event version, which I think is the more popular, and then there's also the non-event version, which is just kind of pure aggro as well. But obviously with 12 events for this one, it's the first one, but not much different. Like, this is a pretty standard build, and honestly I would not be surprised if I've inputted one of these card for card before. But I do like Gordon at 2. I do like Magra at 2 as well, being able to get the boost on a lot of your 1-drops. Curly Dedan is a broken card, and I'll continue to say that until otherwise. But yeah, this card's so good. Like, this has really enabled a lot of red to do very good, at least on the Law and the Zoro side. It's just such a good card. Zoro, Marco, Luffy for the rush, and then our events are Rad Beam for 1 because we can't run more, 4 guard points, 1 Diaba Jambe, 1 Fiery Doll, 4 Fire Fist, and a single copy of Jet Pistol. And honestly, I do think Jet Pistol is a kind of standard, like a good card to run at like 1 or 2 copies in red right now, at least for Zoro and Ace, which we'll talk about in a little bit, just because it does hit so many things, and a lot of people aren't playing around it, not only in your hand, but especially in your life. So obviously Thunderbolt's been a really strong card for yellow, but the Jet Pistol in life can definitely win you games too if you're not, your opponent's not playing around it either. So, but this is Lester's list. Congratulations for their finish there. And then next up we have Trafalgar Law. So this is Thomas Wynn's version of the build, and I honestly don't have anything to say per usual about Law because it's just so good and it's running the same cards. But I don't think that's anything against the players at all, and I hope that's not taken that way. It's a good deck and a good player is playing it. So yeah, they're going to do well. I don't think that's crazy. So the decision points for this one that we've been seeing is that we were playing 4 copies of Vista, which is a lot, which is again the maximum amount of Vista that you can run. And being able to bounce this back to your hand and then play it again later in the turn is good. So you could do something like Trafalgar Law, bounce Vista for Law, then use Law effect to bounce something, play Vista again. I think that is good for what the deck is. And since that's the case, we are running 4 copies of Otama to get things into the 5K range that Vista can handle, which is good too. And I think that's understood. So only running 3 Zoros, none of the Star Deck Zoro, 2 Luffys, and only 3 of the Restand Law, and only a guard point, Radical Beam, sorry for there. Playing 4 copies of Brook and only 2 copies of Sanji, and I kind of do like Sanji more than Brook right now, because I do think that there are some control decks that try to leave you at 4 life as much as possible. So this being able to not only apply pressure, but also get card draw can be essential for you there too. But that's kind of the list. Congratulations to Thomas for their finish there. And the next up we have our single queen list. So this is Brian's version of the build. The first unique card that I see is the Charlotte Amande, which I don't normally see in the deck, but I do kind of understand like why this card can be there. Being able to trash a card from your hand and get into the range of what you need is pretty important. 3 cost is kind of the flex spot for the deck too. So being able to say, we can do something like Gumga Red Rock, get rid of something, play a Monde, get rid of an additional card in our hand that might be affecting how we, what our hand size is. And then afterwards, we can use our Queen Leader to not only attack into the thing that we rested, but also get a life if we have an 8 cost or higher. So I do like that tech. The fact that it's a 2K as well means that it's really flexible in what we get to use with it. And I think we have so many cards with trigger in our hand too that it's going to be really, really easy to use this effect, which is cool. So I do kind of shout him out for adding this, and I think this is a good tech, and I'm going to try it out personally. I think it's a really, really strong tech for this. Otherwise, our top end is 4 Katakuris, only 2 Mihawks, and then 4 copies of Yamato. I'll definitely say Yamato is probably the best card in this deck. At least this is the best spot for this card. You're able to not only heal, the fact that you get some removal, and since we're playing 4 copies of Pound and the Katakuri, we can kind of stack cards into our opponent's life and just leave them at a high life total. So if we play this we're at 1 life and our opponent's at 5 life, we get to get the KO of something of 6 or 6 or less, and also get the heal. And then if we have the Dawn left, we can attack with Queen and go back up to 3. So I think that's really strong for you there. Otherwise, this is the cards we're seeing. Using Kaya instead of Sakazuki, what's Sasaki, and then also Perona as well as our 1-drop, so to help us get some rearranging. And I do appreciate the 1-drops because there are some weird times where we just need to get the cards out of our hand for low Dawn cost, and I think that's important for it. So anyways, this is the list, and congratulations to Brian for their finish there. Next up we have Ace. So this is Tommy's version of the list here. I did do personally, like as of this recording, the day of, I did do a lot of testing with Ace, and so there's a couple differences between them. I do kind of become a little bit partial with the Curly Dadan. I think this is a really strong card for the deck, and lets you get a lot of consistency and card draw with you, especially since we have Izo and Buggy, which you can find off Dadan. So I think that is really strong for this deck too. I do also personally play Gordon because at 2 copies, because it does help us get things into range also. I don't know how I feel about Whitebeard Pirates. It's okay, but I don't feel like we really have the Dawn to use this card, and the fact that it's like a -1, like it's just, you don't really gain anything from using it. So I do think that's kind of rough for you there. I do like the Marco's Ace. Newgate, I could go either way if this card kind of deserves to be an ace. I know it's a very strong card, but it also means you kind of have to play around playing this specifically on turn 9, which kind of changes your strategy at times. And then 3 Fire Fists, 2 Fiery Doll, 4 guard points, and some Flame Emperors. So none of the crossfires, which I do think is kind of important for this deck, especially trying to get things into range. But I think that's the only card. I am a little bit surprised at Fiery Doll. That is a little bit aggressive, and I do wonder if that's a mistake at all, if it's supposed to be Crossfire, or if it's supposed to be Fiery Doll just for that super duper aggression. So the art for both these cards are really similar. I've been confused before, but I think that's, I don't know. Fiery Doll's not bad. It's especially since it is Whitebeard's Pirates. It's just a little bit peculiar. I don't see this card as often. So anyways, this is the list. Congratulations to Tommy for their finish. And to wrap it up, we do have Nicholas's top 16, 17th place if you want to be according to the BCP pairings, but 16th place in my heart. We have Nicholas here again with Rebecca. And I did also want to go over this list because, we didn't see any Rebecca elsewise in the top 16. I know a lot of people have been grinding on this deck and been trying to do their best with it. Unfortunately, I do think it does have, a really bad matchup against yellow, and there are some times where it has some awkward matchups against just a deck that's really, really aggressive. It does have ways to mitigate the advantage from Zoro, especially with cards like Leo. And against some decks, it really depends at how many Kairos you're able to find successfully, because you're able to play these and they kind of stay on the board forever, which is really, really nice. Or your opponent's just going to have to spend a lot of resources to try to get rid of it. But the way that I like to play the deck right now, and we're going to be doing some testing with this deck too on my live stream that I mentioned earlier, but we're going to be playing like just being able to be like a control deck, being like really grindy with the advantage, and then eventually we're able to play our Luffy, you're able to let it stick on the board, and then we're able to attack with it and get some extra advantage. So I think that's strong for the deck. I think that's kind of the way that Rebecca's meant to be played right now, and you get all the advantage with it too if you're able to go off. So not much more to say with that one. Congratulations to Nicholas for their finish. And that's going to be it for me. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Again, if you guys want any of these top 16 breakdowns, they're all on my website. And I think it's been a pretty good resource for all that kind of stuff right now too. But that's going to be it. I do appreciate it. And I'll catch you all next time.